What's up, everybody? This is Cyrus here with Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. And tonight, although I've talked about this topic before, I think it's an important one to reiterate and bring back home a couple more times. And that's the topic of the difference between lucid dreaming and astral projection. So before we begin, you're watching Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics, where we talk about topics like life after death, supernatural things, and a lot of other topics which are all really quite interconnected. If you like this kind of thing, then I encourage you to please help the channel out by pressing the YouTube holy trifecta, which is the like button, the notification bell, and the subscribe button. Or if you're feeling extra tenacious, the share button. Basically, I need help with all those things to keep the channel going, because YouTube squashes channels like a bug if they're not popular enough. Then they'll stop recommending the video to other users, which would mean I will get no new audiences and fewer people will know about these metaphysical subjects. Okay, so to continue, talking about lucid dreaming versus out-of-body experiences. Very important, because OBEs are a murky topic, and it's easy to go off path when you are both doing out-of-body experiences and also learning about out-of-body experiences and what people bring back as reported information. The reason for that is that to have an out-of-body experience, what we're doing is we are manipulating states of consciousness to gain a peek into other dimensions. And the whole concept of another dimension means it's something that is completely normally inaccessible to us. Yet they do exist and are only accessible by learning how to manipulate our consciousness to tap into that kind of world. It's kind of like metaphysical or reality hacking. And we have these barriers in place in this universe, in this world, with our brains. We can't fly around outside of this. We're locked in place into this dimension. But an out-of-body experiencer, an astral projectionist, has the ability to escape that prison and go to other parts of the universe. In particular, what we call the astral plane, the astral dimension, or otherworldly afterlife-based places, which is a terminology for anywhere in the multiverse that we go to when our consciousness escapes this body and decides to either be just pure consciousness or go into other bodies in other parts of the universe, including places very, very close to our own, the kind of counterpart worlds to this world. Very crazy stuff if you're not acquainted with the subject, but having the out-of-body experiences quickly catches you up to speed that there's something going on. There are these other worlds out there. Here is the problem. And this is the biggest trap, the biggest danger that many very well-meaning, well-intentioned authors fall into. Something that I am always at threat of falling into, and one must always be aware. There's basically two states of consciousness that you can enter into. Maybe we could say three states when we fall asleep. One is just unconsciousness, the other one is entering a dream state, and then the third is the consciousness expanding beyond a dream state. And of course there are neurological components to this as well, which I'm not going to get into in this video, including like theta waves, delta waves, REM sleep. But just as a basic overview, we can end up in a situation where we are either dreaming, and then in that dream state we can snap out of it and begin to enter a state of lucid consciousness where we are aware that our body is sleeping, but that is only the halfway point. From that point, we have to then break through into conscious awareness of existing in a literal other realm. Because what tends to happen, and this is complicated, so bear with me, is we seem to have simultaneous or concurrent existences happening in these other dimensions, including what we call the astral dimension, the astral plane. So while we're having these experiences on that side, our physical brains are interpreting those experiences through the process of dreaming. So we could be playing golf on the astral plane. I'm just making this example up. And then the process of our brain interpreting it thinks that we're doing something very different. And this is because the brain doesn't know where this information is coming from, and it's filling in gaps, and it's interpreting things that it's receiving the best that it can. So you'll wake up and be like, I had this crazy dream that I was what's something similar to playing golf. I was shooting basketballs across a big green field, and there were little goblin creatures running around catching the basketballs, like whatever, like a bunch of nonsense. Now, the thing is, you can enter into that dream state, and they can become very lucid, and then you can think that this is an out-of-body experience because it feels very lifelike. Yet still, you're still stuck in that interpretation that's coming into you, like basically filtering into your brain. And you're oblivious to whatever, like your other self, your astral self, your parallel self, your higher self is doing in that other dimension. And then you wake up and you're like, wow, it's such a bizarre universe, that, I was playing this weird game in a grassy field with goblins and basketballs, whatever it is. And then an out-of-body experiencer who doesn't realize that this was a dream will report this to everybody as if this was something that goes on in real life, when that's not the case at all. Now, this extends to what I would say are very reputable people in the out-of-body experience realm who I think sometimes report very weird things that may or may not have any basis in reality. One of the first books I read about out-of-body experiences was by Robert Monroe, and in this book, he was talking about being on a spaceship with this pig-like creature. Look kind of like who is who is the pig from Bugs Bunny, like Elmer Fudd or something, right? Look like Elmer Fudd, who was hanging out in a spaceship with some other anthropomorphic animals. Hey, this stuff anything is possible in the multiverse, so I'm not denying that. But we hear some of the really weird stuff, and it's like, this seems like someone's having a trip. And we see it today, and I'm not going to go into names, but some of the very abstract types of experiences that we hear about that are popular in the out-of-body experience world, we don't know if it's a legitimate OBE or if it's not. If it's a lucid dream state. And so a proper out-of-body experiencer must generally should not report their experience unless they get the energetic feeling that they've left the body. So this usually happens for me if I'm having what I consider to be an authentic out-of-body experience. I'll feel like this energetic rush happen, and then if I'm having a dream, the dreamscape will actually dissolve, and I'll see what's really going on, whatever was really happening underneath it. So the weird goblins and the basketballs and whatever disappear, and I'm back to playing a pleasant game of golf with all my friends on the astral side, who I will have no memory of when I wake up, because that's a whole different topic. And so that's how I attempt to get information about the other side. Now, I will also say that this extends into OBEs that skirt around the astral dimension. So not everybody goes to these astral states, but some people hang around these very sort of abstract types of environments where they have no body, there is no real form or function, and sometimes people see weird, bizarre creatures, or nothing really makes sense, but it doesn't really seem like a dream either. These are these strange netherworld environments, and then people report that and they think that this is what the other side is like, but really it's not. This is just a strange interpretation. And I was recently learning about an out-of-body author who I looked up, and then they had a lot of reports like this, very, very big following. And I can't help but think, like, why are they not reporting on, like, the astral plane, the civilizations, the other worlds that we could go to, which to me are a lot more interesting in many ways than these bizarre netherworld experiences. Because if we're talking about life after death, like, the last thing that I want is to die and be on an endless drug trip. I want to be someplace that's real, with real people, with real experiences. So I think that was, who was the author? It was one of the comments. Like, I hadn't looked into his work too much. Doesn't matter really. I don't really like naming names anyway, because I don't want to, like, get people after me with a pitchfork, because some of these authors, I mean, they have 10 times, 100 times bigger audiences than I do, and they follow everything that they say. Like, it's a gospel. So, if an author says that, like, the afterlife is a place with pink skies and purple elephants, then they'll eat that up like it's freaking gospel, and they'll come after anybody who disagrees. So obviously that's also a bad idea. And I think it's an issue when you get a lot of the strange interpretations happening. But it's not saying that these things don't exist, but what I'm saying is out-of-body experiences can be very, very different from each other. There's the risk of lucid dreaming seeping into it. And we have to be vigilant, because it doesn't always apply to what our own experiences are going to be. So we shouldn't take people's experiences, including my own, as a gospel. We need to be very vigilant and understand the limitations of the out-of-body experience and how individualized it can be. So one last point in this video is about how lucid dreams can be these kind of inner planes, inner dimensions. So the art of lucid dreaming is separate from astral projection. Lucid dreaming gives you an opportunity to explore a world of your own higher self's generation. So it's created this whole place for you to learn, explore, have fun. What my higher self does, it creates environments and scenarios that are fun and exciting. And when I gain lucid awareness, it becomes a co-creation process. And it's like, let's say it's a detective story, and I'm, cracking a case, and it's kind of, it almost reminds me of like the holodeck in Star Trek. So it's created this whole program. I'm exploring it, having fun, learning. And then when I become aware of it, become lucid, I find out it's a co-creative environment. I can create whatever I want. It's really cool. So lucid dreaming is great. That's not the afterlife. That's not the astral plane. That's lucid dreaming. Okay, it's a non-consensus reality created in your mind. It does not relate to astral projection. So the way you can often tell what's what is that in a lucid dream state, it's very malleable to thought. So what you're thinking will affect the whole environment, because you're God. You have full control of everything, because there's nobody there except just you. Or sometimes we can share the same dream space with like guides or other people we know. Like that, this can happen, but usually just you, maybe somebody else. Usually just you, your higher self, creating this whole environment. And if you think of an apple, you get an apple. If you want to create a church, you create a church. You want to make a dragon, you make a dragon. You want to slay the dragon with a sword, you make a sword. So that's all fun and dandy, but in some ways it's also limiting, because it's playing a video game on God mode, so there's no real challenge involved, because you're creating the whole thing. So I often actually get bored lucid dreaming, and I want to go into the astral sphere, where it's like this world, where basically, because it's a shared dimension with all the other souls, like you can change the environment, but it's a lot more difficult. And when you realize that you're not the one in control, that the environment has more power than you do, there's a good chance you're in a real objective realm, just like the one we're in right now. So that's a great way to tell whether you're lucid dreaming or astral projecting. I think that's it for this video. Hopefully this helps clarify some of these positions, and also when you read books, when you read about these topics, use your critical thinking skills and consider, is this person's report a lucid dream or a true astral experience. If you can do that, it's going to save a lot of confusion in this area. If you like this kind of thing, you can check out afterlifetopics.com. Find links to the Facebook group. We have over 8,000 people in that. You can find links to my books like Understanding Life After Death, Afterlife Topics, I'm sorry, The Afterlife and Beyond. Or you can join the classes, Afterlife University, afterlifetopics.com/university. You can find my personal Facebook page. You can shoot me a message. Let me know what you're up to, what you thought of this video, or what your experiences have been like. So those are all some thoughts. Hope you found this useful. I'll see you on the next video.